I felt I'd arrived. It was as if everything I'd experienced up to that point had led to this point, and now it was my time. I'd discovered the person I wanted to be. I just thought I'd cracked the code of life. Sitting at a dinner table with my family on an innocuous Sunday evening at my sister's house. So her family, my daughter and my mum and dad, and being told by my sister that I'd wet myself at the table. I've just got this zest, this spring for life that I never knew existed. It's amazing. Life is great.
Hello and welcome to 12 Steps and 12 Questions. My name is Silvio and I'm an addict. This pod is full of personal and inspirational stories of recovery from addiction. And in every episode I'll ask each guest the same 12 questions about their life, addiction and recovery. Quick warning, there will be some graphic descriptions and a healthy amount of swearing. For this episode, please welcome Laura.
Laura, thank you so much for being my guest today on 12 Steps and 12 Questions. Before we get to your intro, I'd very quickly just like to thank everybody who's downloaded the podcast and listened to it. And I'd be really grateful if you could quickly give us a review on whichever platform you're listening to. It really helps spreading the message. It helps me and the algorithms to work out 12 step. Laura.
Hi.
Please introduce yourself.
Hi. I'm Laura. And I am an alcoholic and I am an addict.
Great, thank you. Let's get straight to it. Question 1 of our 12 questions is, did you have any adverse childhood experiences?
Do you know, I don't think I did have anything adverse going on, if I'm really honest. All of that said, did I have a happy childhood? Do I look back and think, yeah, that was golden? No, I don't. So it's a bit conflicting, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Growing up, I grew up with my mum and dad, who are elderly, and I'm grateful to say they're still around, and my sister, who's a couple of years older than me. Did I enjoy my early years? No, I didn't.
Why didn't you?
I just felt overridingly very uncomfortable in all ways. And it's really hard to put my finger on. But it was just really, I was a child that was very insecure. I was very fearful, and it's a cliche, but I don't think I ever fitted in anywhere. And
were there any obvious bits why you didn't fit in?
No, nothing really. I one of my earliest memories is starting nursery school at the age of 4, and I can remember of that time feeling immensely insecure and not wanting to be there and feeling just immense uncomfortableness, if that's even a word. And that carried that feeling, that sensation that didn't leave me. And then as I grew older, as soon as I could put my finger on it, I decided that I wanted to leave home.
Right, okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So a cry for independence.
Yeah, because I was coming to the conclusion that the way I was feeling was, the cause of that was because of where I was living and who I was living with. Right. And I didn't want to be there.
So if I look back, for instance, I also felt like I didn't fit in. There was good reason for it. I'm, the son of 2 Italian immigrants, and, I grew up in Germany. So, all the people around me, or most of them, they were taller, blonder, better, all sorts. So I literally looked a bit different and spoke a bit different. And in my household, there was always quite a lot of tension. There was a lot of yelling. There was some, or quite a bit actually, of physical abuse. And so those were the bits that really got to me. What was your household like?
I can really relate to a lot of what you just said. My parents are Italian, and so my household was quite tense, for no apparent reason other than that it was.
Yeah.
My parents spoke Italian to each other. My first language is English.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a strong sense of confusion. And I think, and my name, that's the other thing. My name is Laura, if you're English, and it is spelt the same way as my actual name, which is Laura, which is the Italian way of saying Laura. So from the moment I went to school, that nursery school that I mentioned, I became Laura. Yeah. So there was this, at home I was Laura, and then everywhere else I went, which was the only place I went when you're growing up and you're tiny, I was this other person. And I had another name. And as ludicrous as it sounds, it was very confusing.
A lot has been, we share this experience, don't we?
We do.
The second generation immigrant experience, right? And a lot has been said there's a, what's the name? Third culture kids.
Right.
Right. There's clever books have been written by really clever people about the experiences that only people who have a third culture, right, have made. And it's, I don't know, I think perhaps I overplayed it when I was younger and so on, but I think there's something to it. Maybe you're underplaying it a bit here, I don't know.
Yeah, possibly I am. But it was just a perpetual state of confusion. It's the only way I can say it. And look, my dad was extremely hardworking. I mean, that probably was his biggest fault, that he would go out in the morning early, and we wouldn't see him till some nights we'd have dinner together as a family, and many nights we wouldn't. And there would always be tension when he came back into the home because he was tired after working hard all day. And, I've got this memory of my mother telling me and my sister, let your father get in the house before you make a fuss, or, And so you're actually being told, leave your father alone. And I've got these memories that we would always go to Italy every year, every summer holiday, bar 1 year. We would get in the car, load the car up, and we would drive to Italy, and we'd spend 3 weeks over there. And it was really, they were good times, And those were the only times where I saw my dad relaxed. And, because he worked hard. So I don't know where I'm going with this, but
it's okay to reminisce here for just a second. I'm thinking also we might just have gone just ever so slightly off topic, and that's fine, but we actually haven't really, because I think this sense of being different, of being from a different place, of my parents, spoke with big Italian accent, I felt this was such a big contributor to me feeling different, looking different, sounding different, having a different name, this, that, and the other. So if we're talking about feeling different and being different and so on, and discomfort, not knowing where my place is, all of those things, feeling somewhat displaced because I wasn't really at home in Germany, I wasn't really at home in Italy either. I think all of this is the biggest issue of my childhood, so it's not surprising we're talking about it.
Yeah, and it's interesting to be talking to you about all of this in this way, actually. And then, aside from that, my mother was it was much later that she had a part-time job once my sister and I were a lot older. So she was the homemaker, the traditional homemaker. And so she was always there. And it's interesting because even though I had a mother that was always there, I couldn't wait to get away from her. And I had a sense that all I wanted to do was get away from my family home, and I didn't want to be like my parents. And yet all they'd ever done was being themselves and actually been there for me. So it's quite you've got me thinking about it.
And it's great stuff. So question 2 is, what did the good times look like? The times you first got hooked. So here you are this second generation Italian immigrant kid living in the UK. You're feeling a bit uncomfortable at home and maybe a bit uncomfortable in your skin. You're quite fearful, a bit shy, you said.
So that running away that I spoke about, that took the form of going to university at age 19.
Right.
And I went to university not to get a degree and come out with letters after my name. I went because it was a legitimate reason to get away at age 19. So off I trotted and went to Brighton. And it was there that I discovered alcohol. And it was fantastic. I remember my parents leaving me in Eastbourne. I was Brighton Uni, but the Eastbourne campus, but that didn't matter. And the first thing I did was go to the student union bar and get stuck in. And it was great. I felt I'd arrived. Straight out.
Built story.
Well, yeah, seriously. Yeah, I mean, it was as if everything I'd experienced up to that point had led to this point, and now it was my time.
Yeah.
I'd discovered the person I wanted to be. Quite soon after that, in my second year, or a bit before, I discovered smoking joints, and I went from nothing to becoming a wake and bake merchant, which means first thing you do in the morning is have a spliff.
Okay, I've not heard of the expression.
And you do it continuously throughout the day. And that's how my 4 years at university looked. During that time, I then discovered speed. We were living in Eastbourne, close to the South Downs, so we picked our own magic mushrooms, which was amazing. A friend of mine from Cornwall, he went home, came back, and he had strips of acid. I don't know whether it was homemade or what the hell it was, but I did my first acid, and that was amazing.
So these were the good times.
These were great times. Yeah, they were really good.
So it wasn't problematic then, the drinking and the using?
No, it was my life, and everything was good.
So you weren't a blackout drinker from the beginning or something like that?
I would say no, I wasn't. I would just drink, and then other substance would be brought in. What slowly happened was that interestingly, and at the beginning I did call myself an alcoholic, the alcohol got phased out.
Favour of?
Weed. Well, back then it was solid. If we ever got any weed, it was like, wow, wicked. It was all solid that we smoked. And my alcohol, my drinking wasn't massively prevalent. Yeah, I drink when we went out, but the smoking throughout the day and when I came back from being out was huge. And if I did any other sort of drug, like the speed or the acid, I always had to have smoke, because the come downs were awful. They were terrible. So I would literally smoke my way through it.
It's a tried and tested recipe, I think.
Yeah. 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 So then, leaving university, my main aim in life was to carry on life in the vein that I'd started my independent life. So I went abroad and worked overseas. I did seasons and ski seasons and summer seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just one big party with a bit of work thrown in, if I'm honest. And so my lifestyle, my favoured lifestyle, which was quite hedonistic, I could continue in that vein, and I did.
Was there any sort of awareness there, at the time that I'm doing this because either there's, my using is really the most important thing to me or that anything?
No, not really, if I'm honest. No, I just thought I'd cracked the code of life. And anyone that really wasn't enjoying the parts of life that I was in the way that I was, I'd take a fairly dim view of them, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
There's a lot of arrogance there. I did not for one moment, during my 20s and during my whole of my 20s did I think, there's something not quite right here.
Yeah.
Not for one moment.
Yeah.
No.
Amazing. Great stuff. So our next question 3 is, what were your worst consequences? And then finally, your rock bottom. Now, the usual caveat, not everybody has rock bottom. Many have many rock bottoms. People don't even come in on the back of the one necessarily, and I'm also quite aware that we may be covering quite a long sort of time frame here. But nonetheless, what were your consequences? How, at some point after, so here's the hedonism, you're having a great time, you're thinking you cracked it, you're also taking a dim view of those who haven't cracked it and who just may be leading basically a life that is not just about getting high, right? So
how
did it progress?
It progressed. The progression of my illness was over a course of 30 years. So I came into recovery when I was 50 and I went to university at 19. So it's a good 30 years, and it was very progressive. It was a slow progression. So there were a number of rock bottoms when I look back, and or dark moments, if you like. It's probably a more appropriate way of calling them. And I didn't take any notice of them. For me, they were just episodes that potentially got in the way of me doing the things I wanted to do, like relationships. I was in a long-term relationship with my daughter's father, and we got together in my early 30s, and we had our daughter when I was in my mid-30s. And the selfishness and self-centeredness that we talk about, that we learn about in recovery, I did a really good job of letting that rule me. I was unwell, so of course it would. And I pushed people away. And because I thought it's my way or the highway. So I would, I decided that we weren't going to continue in a relationship, me and him. And how that came about, it's quite long and winded. And I'm probably going off topic a bit here. But I think basically what I'm trying to say is that there were a series of decisions that I made during the course of my life prior to coming into recovery that were dark moments, and I didn't see the consequences that were presented in front of me of my actions, and I just went ahead anyway. But I guess these were times when I didn't really know I had a problem either. Towards the end of my using and drinking, the more obvious rock bottoms presented themselves.
Right.
Like I lost a major job that I had through drinking too much, and at a work event informing one of our clients exactly what I thought of them.
Okay, yeah.
And the ridiculous thing was, the following day I walked into the office oblivious that I'd done that, to then be marched into the owner's office to get told what I'd done. And I still didn't think I had a drinking problem.
They had the problem, clearly.
They had the problem because he was a shit client anyway.
Yeah.
You know, that happened probably 4 or 5 years before I came into recovery, and that was then the ultimate slide. That period.
How else did the consequences present themselves?
Sitting at a dinner table with my family on an innocuous Sunday evening at my sister's house. So her family, my daughter, and my mum and dad. And being told by my sister that I'd wet myself at the table.
Right.
And I still didn't know I had a problem.
So at no point, these things happening, did you think, right, I'm drinking too much, I need to put it... And
with that wetting myself at a dinner table, my sister and her husband had tried to intervene a couple of times before that. This was before lockdown, just before lockdown. And I thought they were mad. I was under so much delusion. But in answer to your question, no, I still didn't think that there was a problem, really and truly.
And when did it dawn on you that it was a problem?
So...
Because eventually you sought help.
I did. So it was the day after my 50th birthday, and it was 2020. So we were coming out of lockdown. My birthday's in March, and it had been the usual party for one on the day before, which at that point looked like litres and litres of vodka, because that's all my using consisted of at the end. It was alcohol and only alcohol.
Right, okay. So you had given up all the... I mean, we met in the rooms of Cocaine Anonymous.
Yeah.
So cocaine must have been an issue at some point, I suppose.
Yeah, it was. But when I found myself on my own, which was after I'd separated from my daughter's father, I very quickly met someone else. And within a year we were married. And I was doing a fair amount of cocaine at that point. And he put a stop to it. He suggested that, you know, the smoking and the cocaine usage probably wasn't something that we should keep doing. So, a bit like in the book, some addicts are able to stop given sufficient force. But I didn't stop fully. I just substituted one thing for another.
It's the alcohol reading.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. So, and that's when my drinking became not just every day, but much earlier and earlier and earlier in the day. And so I was 24/7 drinker.
Right. Now, in that time, so what I'm hearing is it was an extremely slow progression over many years. And this sounds quite similar to my story. And I am just so fascinated with the fact that we speak to people who's drinking and using maybe took, 2.5 years and it destroyed them and they imploded.
Yeah.
And, you can have it for 30 years or so and it just gets a little bit microscopic little bit worse?
Silvio, I would say to you that my drinking and using, and I know this now, and I only know it now because I'm in recovery, it was a way of life. It was the only life I knew. I look back on it and I think, and I review it, and I think from the age of 19, there wasn't any one day really, apart from a handful, like the day I gave birth to my daughter and the couple of days after that, I think, that I didn't have a drink, smoke a joint, have cocaine or any class A of a sort.
Yeah. But then it also sounds like towards the very end, it accelerated quite
Massively
a little bit.
accelerated. Oh my God. I was a 24/7 drinker. So...
By that point, surely you knew that you had a massive
No,
problem.
I know it sounds ridiculous,
No, it doesn't.
but for the whole, you have to understand that it's a bit hazy because there was a lot of drinking, and what you asked me about blackout. Yeah, I just reeled from one blackout to the next for the whole of COVID. And in a way, well, in a big way, I am really, really grateful that COVID happened because, like for so many, it did accelerate my problem. Because prior to COVID, I was drinking quite heavily every single evening of the week, and at the weekend really heavily. And at the weekend, the drinking on a Saturday morning would start much earlier than a Saturday evening. It would start at lunchtime, and then it would be me drinking before going out to meet friends for brunch or lunch or whatever our evening plans were. So this drinking on my own became just something that became really, really normal. And just before lockdown happened, I was drinking before work in the morning. I used to leave for work about 7:45, get up at 6. So I was already drinking at 6 a.m. before COVID.
Can I just slow you down here for 1 second? You're getting up, you brush your teeth, shower, whatever it is, then you have some vodka before you leave the house?
Yeah.
And you didn't think you were an alcoholic?
No, it sounds really ridiculous, but I did not. It was just what I needed, what I had to do, and what I would do to get through the door.
Goodbye.
It was my way of living.
Our question 4 is, did you, at your worst, ever want to die or consider suicide?
Yeah. Yes to the first question, did I ever want to die? All of the time. Because everything that I've just described to you, I wasn't doing it happily and jauntily. Yes, at the beginning, my using and drinking was fun. It was great. It was hedonistic and it was pleasurable and it was good times. And they rolled. At the end, and for quite a few years, which I class as my end, there was nothing pleasurable about it. I mean, you asked me, you were doing all of this and you didn't realise you had a problem. No, I didn't. But was I enjoying it? No, I wasn't. And that's a really weird space to be in. And I recall times when I would be literally forcing the vodka down my neck, down my throat, first thing in the morning. I'd have to force it down because it wouldn't go down. It would come up several times. And then eventually the relief, because it would go down. In doing that, my tears would be streaming down my face. Yeah. 1, because I was retching, and number 2, because I didn't want to be doing it. I didn't understand why I was doing it. So yeah, very many times I thought, well, what's the point of this life? If this is life, well, there's no point me doing it because this is ridiculous. But my daughter saved my life.
If you're enjoying this podcast and would like other addicts and alcoholics to hear it, then please make the pesky AIs and algorithms work their 12th step. Hit like and subscribe.
Because I never tried it or never thought any more seriously about it, because there was a part of me that just couldn't do that to her.
Yeah.
Because she, getting upset, by now, she doesn't have any, and it's not through anything me or my daughter have done, but her father doesn't feature in her life.
Right.
And there's no malice there, but he just doesn't. I got married, I got divorced, I dragged my daughter through all of that. And what was I then going to do? Was I going to then run the rest of her life, the child of someone who was a drunk? I didn't really realise I was a drunk. I wasn't labelling myself as such, but my mother committed suicide and my father doesn't want to know me. Was I really going to do that?
Ultimate abandonment, I suppose.
Yeah. So she, I strongly believe that if I'd been on my own, I would have taken my life. Yeah.
I say this every time we speak about it, and I'm going to say it again today, of course. If you're listening to this and you're having such thoughts, and you might be in a place where you're using or you're drinking or any other behavior is so bad that it gets to you and that you think life isn't worth living, speak out, speak up, seek help. There are numbers in the show notes that you can call. You can get in touch with AA, CA. You can get in touch with me if you like. There is so much help available. There's Samaritans. There's so much stuff that's out there. You don't have to live like this. You don't have to be in so much pain. There's a way out. Question 5. What other methods did you try to get sober before finding the rooms? Did you try any?
None.
Wow.
None.
So no moderation.
No. Well, okay. I mentioned that my sister and her husband, brother-in-law, they tried intervening in my drinking pre-COVID, and I chased them away. And they made the suggestion, well, why don't you just drink at the weekend or take a break Monday and Tuesday? Don't try not drinking on a Monday and Tuesday. You should be able to do that. So I tried, and I got as far as to about 10 o'clock on a Monday night. That's the extent of my trying to stop drinking. I never went to any meetings. I didn't really believe I had a problem until that day after my 50th birthday.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense. If you don't really think that you have a problem, then there's no reason to moderate.
No, and I was just on this hamster wheel of self-destruction, and I couldn't get off it, and I didn't know that there was a way out, to be honest with you. And I think in the back of my mind, there was also this sense of, I'll sort this out one day. I'll make this good one day. Somehow, some way, this will stop happening. I will be able to stop all of this.
This hits close to home for me. Oh God, you know what? Because I had gone through phases of, even of connection, of spiritual connection, whenever I was able to stop for a while and my drinking and using wasn't problematic for a while, and I had other behaviors take over, food and spending and all sorts. And I had some connection to upstairs for a while where, I learned how to meditate. I started reading books, Eckhart Tolle and all those sort of things. So, and then, I would literally drown them and drown it. But I used to tell myself these things like, this too shall pass. And it's a phase. Somehow it'll end, right? And, I've had other phases with other stuff or other problems or issues or whatever, but it'll just sort itself out. And I was always convinced that I'd be able to sort this out myself. Massive conviction.
Yeah, no, I can really relate to that. Even though I was completely off the chart in terms of my delusion of how serious and uncontrollable my drinking was, I still battled with the notion that I will solve this one day.
Yeah.
And maybe I thought someone was going to come and save me. Which is why, I guess, when I did get the help I needed and I learned about the illness that we suffer from, it was such a relief. It was such a relief to understand that on my own, I'm not going to be able to solve this. That there is a form of recovery which, if you grab it with both hands, will actually take away the problem.
Yeah. And so just at that point, when you heard about all of this and you started to learn about your illness and about the solution at hand, question 6, did you struggle with the word God when you came in?
Do you know, I didn't. There's a couple of reasons I think why I didn't. Number one, I was raised a Catholic, Catholic schools, and I was taught by nuns, and the God I knew about he was out to punish you. Yeah. And the God I knew about was sat on a crucifix and it shone in the dark and it was really scary and it was in my bedroom as a child. So when I was presented, when I first noticed in that treatment centre that God was in these 12 steps that were written on the wall, I was a bit, how on earth is that going to help me now? Well, let's see what you got. Coupled with the fact I was so broken. I was decimated physically and mentally. That when I went in the treatment centre, as I say, and that's the first time I ever learned anything about the disease, what we suffer with, and what the solution is, and God is part of that solution, I was a bit, and let's see what you got, because this is going to be interesting. I wasn't fearful. I just thought, how are you going to make it play out that God on that crucifix that scared the living daylights out of me is going to help me now? Well, bring it on. Let's see it. I had nothing to lose. So the word God, well, I wasn't for it. I wasn't against it. I was just interested to see, where is this all going to go? How is this going to play out?
Yeah.
What have you got for me here?
Yeah.
So I had quite an open mind.
Because of the brokenness that you brought.
Yeah. I was shattered in a million pieces.
It's the only way to come into recovery, really.
Yeah, and I'm really great. You hear it a lot, and I'm going to say it, but I am grateful for that final blow.
Yeah. We've talked about this so often. You hear it lots in the rooms and even outside. That moment of that, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, the final straw.
Yeah.
Or what, I mean, as a cocaine addict, that might even, don't mind a pun, but, whatever it is, right? That where you finally come to the point of saying, I've had enough.
And do you know what? Mine was quite it was very innocuous when it happened. But I remember it, and I don't remember a lot from those days. So I must have had, I had a moment of clarity in amongst shoving vodka down my neck, feeling rubbish, not wanting to do it again, crying. But there was something. I finally felt that I couldn't carry on and that there was a way out, and I didn't know what that way out looked like, but I wanted it. Yeah. So I was going into the complete unknown, and to be honest with you, that's what I've been doing ever since. And it's really good.
Yeah. Question 7. How do you experience your higher power today or Any God moments you'd like to share?
I experience God in everything I do. Which sounds a bit weird. I'm going to have to explain that. I think from a very early time that I came into recovery, I have been aware that developing my God consciousness is very important. Okay. I didn't start to meditate when I got to steps 10 and 11. Through a course of events, I was exposed to meditation fairly early on in my recovery, much before those particular steps. And then as a result of that, and meditation is beautiful, I meditate at least twice a day, which gives me an ability to see and feel my higher power, or I endeavour to see and feel my higher power in everything, in everyone, and everywhere I go. Some days that's really straightforward, and some days it's really, really not. So my whole success in this game of recovery is my ability to be very God-centric. I'll be really honest. That's where it all begins and ends for me.
And a brilliant word, God-centric.
Yeah.
As a antidote to self-will and self-centeredness.
And I was run on self-will and self-centeredness. I mean, it was disgusting. But my life isn't like that anymore. So you asked me, where is God? How do you see God?
I actually asked, how do you experience your heart? Slightly different, but important.
I experience it in all things. My ability to get through the day without thinking about drinking, right there is God. Because I couldn't get through waking up, opening my eyes and reaching for a bottle. My next action would always be reaching for a bottle. I don't do that. I experience God in things like, on that note, I've got an 18-year-old daughter who lives with me, and, we now have vodka in the freezer because she has pre-drinks, as she calls them, at our place before going out. And I don't even, when I open the freezer drawer to get the peas out and the vodka's staring at me, I don't even think anymore, oh, there's vodka. No one will know.
Yeah.
I haven't done that for ages. Yeah. That's God. That's not me. Something really strange happened in a meeting, talking about where God shows up. How do you actually experience those God moments? So I was in a meeting just this week, and the person doing the chair was telling their story, and he was talking about, his experiences, and he mentioned getting into crack, and, that was the beginning of the end, and how terrible it was. And the CA leaflets were behind him on a mantle, and a little wind came through, and the CA leaflet called crack, just as he was telling that, fluttered down onto the floor. And the whole room was like, what just happened there?
Poetically.
Yeah, that's God.
Yeah. Question 8. Which parts of the steps were the most difficult for you?
I have to say I really enjoyed doing all of the steps, because again, it goes back to my brokenness. I had so much willingness, and I didn't want to go back to the place I had been in. So I kind of got on with what I was told to do, and looking at it, probably step 4. But purely from the perspective that it was quite an emotional roller coaster. When I sat down to write out my resentments and my fears, it was the first time I'd admitted my faults in my actions over a very long period of time. And it was really emotional. So I had that moment with myself and with God. Right. And then I went and shared it all with another human, as we're meant to do. That was hard. I have to say that was really, really hard. I really felt deep inside where I'd been wrong. And for someone to face that head on, yeah, it was quite a trial. It was emotional.
Did you also experience, that was my experience of it, I found it difficult to look at my side of things, of course, I've been wronged and things, but that wasn't the thing?
I acquiesced to it. I folded into it.
Okay.
I really did.
But did you feel part of the obsession lifting around that time? For me, it was around step 5 where I first started breathing some actual air and not being beset with this thing so much.
I would say that, yeah, I felt freer, of course, but my obsession, that perpetual drinking, I was free of that much sooner. Because I did 28 days where I was started off with a medical detox.
Right.
So when I came out of the treatment, I was 28 days and I was a bit nervous about coming home, but I have to say that the obsession wasn't on me,
right,
even then.
Yeah. Fascinating. Next question is, which character defects give you most trouble?
Oh my God. All of them. I've got lots. The pride, the envy. But the fear, which is the root of all of my deep-rooted resentments, that's the big one for me. So much fear. I was born out of fear, I think, and I've had to unlearn what my natural state of being is. My default is fear. And I've had to undergo massive relearning that I might not to make my first thought that fear one. That's been my biggest struggle. That's the one that's most prevalent, fear.
Yeah. It's a shared experience. Question 10 is, what is the best thing recovery has given you?
Oh, God. Everything. It's given me the ability to live freely and peacefully. It's given me the ability to be a mother to my daughter, to make right the wrongs. It's given me the ability to forgive myself. Not just myself, but for everyone that I blamed. Because it was always someone else's fault, like me wanting to run away, like I said at the very beginning. Well, of course that was my parents' fault. But I don't feel that way about them anymore. I really, really don't.
It's the new pair of glasses.
The pair of glasses that I've got, they get renewed quite regularly. My glasses, I now wear. And I've just got this zest, this spring for life that I never knew existed. Don't get me wrong, not every day is wonderful. But I am always full of gratitude for the fact that no matter what is happening, I can get through it without the need for, diving into something like a vodka bottle. And it's amazing. Life is great.
Yeah. Just quickly, for those people who might be new in the rooms, and have not heard the expression. If I'm not mistaken, it was Chuck Chamberlain who coined it.
Oh, yeah. It was.
The new pair of glasses.
I read his book recently.
Oh?
It's really good.
Right. Okay.
It's just him doing a big chair.
Right, great. Excellent. I have to pick that up. And it essentially, I'm going to slaughter this now, aren't I? But it essentially says that you view your life and the world through a new pair of glasses through the process of the 12 steps.
And I am living, breathing proof of that.
Yes.
100%. I didn't get my old life back. I have got a new life.
Yeah.
Where my whole perspective is different. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have to work at this perspective.
Yeah, it doesn't come.
No. And there's a lot of action that needs to be put into it. But I freely do that now.
Yeah. Question 11. What would you say to a newcomer or someone wondering if they're an addict?
First of all, if you're wondering if you're an addict, you probably are. You may not accept that fact, but if you are thinking that you might have a problem, then you most likely do. It's my experience. To someone that I meet in the rooms at a meeting, I would say keep an open mind. Keep an open mind, open your ears, open your eyes to this stuff, and have a huge amount of willingness. Keep coming back. Do you know what? Just stay. Because I never left.
Amazing. And the last question, question 12. What do you want your higher power to say to you, quote unquote, at the pearly gates?
I don't think that any words are going to be necessary, if I'm honest. God would say to me, well done for finally getting it. Well done for hearing me. Took you a while, didn't it? Good on you, though. You got there.
I've been trying to get through to you.
Yes, there'd be a bit of that from him, her,
Yeah.
it. Actually, mine is a man, so yeah. Okay. There'd be big hugs. Welcome. You made it. And I always knew you would. You just made hard work of it.
Sounds absolutely amazing. You haven't made hard work of this. On the contrary, it's been such a pleasure to have you. I'd like to thank you for being so, and I expected nothing less, but still, being so insightful, so articulate, so courageous, and sharing your story with us on 12 Steps and 12 Questions. Thank you, Laura.
Oh, thank you, Silvio.
Amazing. We're still rolling.
Oh my God, that went by in a flash.
Yeah, and yet it was 53 minutes, Do you feel you sort of, as they say in sports, you left everything on the field? Or is there stuff that you missed out?
I think there is stuff I missed out.
What?
I think there was stuff at the beginning that I think it's because it's stuff that I'm actually trying to work out for myself. Yeah. So it's quite hard to put into words. And also, when I talk about my early life, I'm coming to terms with the fact that those around me that brought me into the world were doing the best they could. Yeah. And I've got nothing to hold against them for that fact. I mean, becoming a mother myself, I didn't make a great job of it. Well, no, that's not strictly true, but
I felt that was a bit harsh.
Yeah, that is a bit harsh, because the moment my daughter was born, I loved her unconditionally and I never stopped loving her. It's just that I walked over her to get to the vodka in the end. But as a parent, you just do the best you can, and that's all my parents were ever doing. And so, when, that question came, what was early life like?
Adverse childhood.
Yeah. I didn't really have any trauma with a capital T, but then equally, I wasn't happy. I just wasn't happy. And I feel that this road that I've been on, I had to go on in order to get to the place that I am today. And the place I am today, it is simply a journey of discovery that won't stop until I shuffle off this mortal coil.
I mean, we were talking a little bit before the recording, weren't we, about my experiences at the moment, about digging just a little bit deeper and more will be revealed, as they say. Just realizing that I have some neurodivergence that needs to be diagnosed, I suppose, and that needs to be sort of looked at, and that has contributed in some way or another to my feelings of discomfort that I've had for such a long time. And we discover just more and more stuff as we go along, right? Things that I should have... I mean, I started using and drinking really heavily at 15. I came to recovery at 48. So... And I came into recovery at 48, and I was essentially a 15-year-old in many, many ways, right? And so there's a lot of catching up almost to do for me.
Yeah. I didn't mention Kevin, and he's been such a big part of my recovery. You know, through Kevin, I've learned how to have a relationship. And...
Formerly of this parish, of course.
Yeah. And that's a really beautiful thing. It really, really, really is. And to sort of share this journey with someone who's also in recovery, but do it in such a way that my recovery comes first.
Yeah.
Above anything or anyone else. And having the ability to do that, but still feel close to people, Kevin, my daughter, my family, is wow. Because I used to lose myself in relationships completely and utterly. And even then it wasn't ever good enough.
No, and it would never work out on that basis anyway, would it? But what do we know? Or did we know?
I knew nothing, and I thought I knew everything. But that's the difference now. Now I can say hand on heart that I don't know everything. And I like the fact I don't, because more, as you say, does get revealed. And it will only get revealed when I can handle it.
Yeah. Paradoxically, I mean, you're a bit more clued up now, and you think nearly you know nothing, when, of course, at the time you knew nothing and you thought you knew.
Yeah. God, what a nightmare. What an absolute nightmare. But I do also, something that I've been able to start to do really well, at least make a good start on it, is to forgive myself.
Yeah.
And to start loving me. And yeah, just be a bit more forgiving towards myself.
Yeah, it's hard, I find.
It's really hard.
It's
It's really, really, really hard. But it's something that I want to do more work around.
Yeah.
A lot more work.
I found a way of framing it that is slightly different. Because saying to oneself, it's slightly abstract, liking oneself, loving oneself. It's a bit, do you know what I mean? But I can look after myself and my needs. I think framing it that way has been it's more of an instruction on how to do something rather than something which I find a bit abstract. Start loving yourself more. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah.
It'll just make me buy expensive stuff because I
lavish myself with more gifts I don't need. Yeah. And a lot of people, I've never done any inner child work, so I can't really talk with any expertise around it. But thinking back to the child that I was and wanting to be loving and kind towards her, as opposed to hating her for what she was and what I thought she represented. Yeah, I'm starting to view that girl differently. And I think I'm an adult now that can be loving towards that person.
Yeah.
That small person.
Beautifully said. Laura, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Silvio.
We've come to the end of this episode. Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed it and would like other addicts and alcoholics to hear it, then please make the pesky AIs and algorithms work their 12th step. Hit like and subscribe. While this pod is based on the 12-step recovery program, it's not officially affiliated with any 12-step fellowship. 12 Steps and 12 Questions is not substance or behavior specific, it's fully self-supporting and not for profit. And you know this next bit. It's not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, and it neither endorses nor opposes any causes.